It is Locked On NBA Game Night for the night of Tuesday, March 18th. The Warriors beat the Bucks thanks to a vintage performance from Draymond Green. And speaking of vintage performances, Kawhi Leonard helped the Clippers knock off the Cavs, two teams playing their best basketball at the right time that could upset the Western Conference playoff picture. Let's jump in.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night in 30 minutes. Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. However you might be tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Great show for you today. We're going to talk about the Clippers playing their best basketball of the season and potentially being an upset candidate in the Western Conference playoffs. Plus, we have a discussion about Rookie of the Year. But first, let's start, Tony, in San Francisco, where the Warriors got a big win over the Bucks without Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler and Brandin Podziemski led the Warriors in scoring, but I thought Draymond Green was just sensational in this game. His defense on Giannis, he gets the game ball to me. Giannis was held to 5 of 16 shooting. That's 33% shooting. Giannis, a guy who's shooting basically 60% all season. And Draymond had him locked up on multiple possessions, and I thought just completely changed this game.
Totally. Draymond, too, was like good enough on offense. I know he only made one shot, but like kept the ball moving, did the screeny stuff, even without Steph playing. I've always thought he was underrated in those moments when he's playing without Steph. Regardless, yeah, that defense was huge. Like Giannis never got rolling, and he would like miss a free throw every time he had a chance to get the Bucks going on a run. And a big part of Giannis's ascent this season, which is a good thing for him and his improvements, is he always has been good at the passing. He can barrel towards the rim. He's tried to mix in these jumpers, right? And like he makes them. He should keep taking them. But there are nights like this where a very good defender can be just physical enough and just knock him off just enough, making those shots to make him look pretty ineffective. He's going to have the ball the time he should. He's amazing. But Draymond did an awesome job forcing him into those shots that, to Giannis's credit, he's gotten better at, but isn't awesome at, and he didn't make enough of them in this one.
Yeah, and credit to Steve Kerr for the defensive strategy in this one. The Warriors basically showed us how they're going to defend bigger teams. They're going to have Draymond Green defend the most dangerous big. In this case, obviously, it was Giannis. And then you've got Quentin Post starting this game, but playing off of a non-shooter, in this case, Kyle Kuzma, who was a non-shooter for quarters 1, 2, and 4, but was a good shooter in quarter 3 and helped to kind of lead a little Bucks comeback in that period. But you've got Quentin Post stationed on Kuzma. He rotates over in the paint every time Giannis started making his way towards the rim. And I thought that worked. There's a lot that we're going to be able to take away from this game that we'll get to here in this segment. But that was the main thing is, okay, we know that the Warriors have a size issue. They're going to start Quentin Post against bigger teams, but I don't know how much they're going to really trust this guy against those bigger players. And it turns out, well, we're not even going to have him defend these bigger players. We're going to leave that up to Draymond, who has turned in a Hall of Fame career doing exactly this thing. And then we'll just have Post basically playing weak side free safety stuff and rotating over into the paint whenever Draymond needs him. Before I get to the problem with that in this particular matchup, what did you make of Golden State's overall strategy and maybe how that impacts what they do going forward?
First of all, you ruined watching the Warriors for me when you made a joke about Quentin Post needing to change his name because he does not go in the post ever, and that is 100% true. 9 of his 10 shots were threes at this game. It makes sense too. Why they –
He's got like a really quick release on some of these shots. Yeah. I've been impressed. Yeah.
I think it was either the second or third quarter. Someone bombed him a skip pass, and like it wasn't perfectly on target, and he just like flicked it up and made it immediately.
Yeah, it was Jimmy. Like, Jimmy on the baseline. He had two guys closing out. I think it was Torian Prince right in front of him, and he was just like flick of the wrist.
Yeah, they do need to find ways to, especially if they're going to go this little with center. And I don't know about you, but like, there's no way they're playing Looney in the playoffs, right? Like, so they have to do something. Maybe not unique. This isn't like, oh my gosh, a team going small, but like different for their personnel to find ways to defend well with the group that they have. And like, they have a lot of guys you'd consider okay to good defenders for their size, but especially especially against Brook Lopez, who's been crushing teams inside recently, Giannis, a Kuzma team, you got to have a good game plan for that kind of size coming your way. Torian Prince at the 2. Like, it's coming at you the whole game. And so even if it's different or gimmicky, if you can lock into that game plan for a night, especially like Steph's great, but not a plus defender, without him, that's important, right? And they needed it in this game and got it. And the only time they had any chance of looking like they were losing was when they were beating themselves. It was just turnovers, right? Like the rest, that was the only thing going wrong for them to me in the third quarter.
10 turnovers in that third quarter. That was really what got the Bucks back into it and allowed them to play back in transition. The two things about the Bucks, yes, I think the Warriors did show us what they're going to do against bigger teams. And the Milwaukee Bucks are technically a bigger team, but they don't play like a big team. It's really just Giannis. I looked it up. They have the third fewest points in the paint per game this season.
Wow.
They score fewer points in the paint per game than the Charlotte Hornets. This is not a team that necessarily plays big. They just sort of are big. And basically all these points are like, it feels like 30 of the 40 points that they average in the paint are just Giannis. And the other ones are just sort of like, they just kind of have to happen eventually. So, maybe it works against what is essentially a finesse team in the Milwaukee Bucks when you kind of get down to brass tacks. What does that look like against a team like Denver, who is dominant in the paint and will force the issue? Because, Giannis will do what he can do in transition, but this is not a good half-court basketball team offensively this season. Like, what does it look like against a team like Jokic and the Denver Nuggets who can cut and get all those paint points and do all of those things? That's where I'd be more interested to see how this defensive strategy for the Warriors holds up. And of course, we almost had a chance to see exactly what that would look like. And then Denver did not play Nikola Jokic or Jamal Murray in that game over the weekend or on Monday or whatever day that was.
What is the March NBA, man? The Nuggets rest guys last night and beat a red hot Golden State. So then the Warriors are like, well, crap, we got to rest Steph now. And then they win. They beat the Bucks. What? Like, we'll talk about the Cavs. Like, March NBA, man, is chaotic. And the other thing about the Bucks and their size, like, I say this because the Pacers played the Bucks twice in the last 7 days. Brook Lopez is like getting better, I think, at being an interior presence for them. Their bench players today were Ryan Rollins, AJ Green, Gary Trent, and Kevin Porter Jr. They have turned away from Jericho Sims already after trading for him, and okay, it's Jericho Sims, but they don't have any size off the bench, right? So all their subs are getting smaller. And so they're really reliant on Giannis and at times Brook Lopez to do that stuff. And Kuzma is tall. You saw the game. Do you remember any Kuzma twos? He took 13 threes. I mean, he's a skilled player, but that doesn't add the oomph and power at the basket that you need. So you're not getting shot attempts from Jericho Sims, but he is a large person. So I don't know about concerned level of address, but that, this kind of game did show it. They took the box score says they took 41 twos. It didn't feel like it.
No, and a lot of them were those mid-range shots, even the ones that Draymond would bait Giannis into. It wasn't a lot of shots at the rim. It was kind of those 14, 15, 16 footers that Giannis started to like this year, and he's mostly been good on them, but if that's all he's getting, it's not great. He got to the line 15 times. Speaking of getting to the line, quick note to the Milwaukee Bucks, don't foul Jimmy Butler when he's taking threes. Well, they did that twice, once at the end of the third quarter and once at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and it just felt like everything unraveled from Milwaukee after that. Why would you foul Jimmy Butler when he's taking a three-pointer? Let him take them. Give him the Kyle Kuzma treatment. I don't understand it.
I don't get why you'd foul Jimmy Butler ever, even that's not like a feasible thing to do. Yeah, let him shoot, man. That was they did a lot of things that were very confusing to me in this game, including coming out so freaking flat. It was weird. I thought this would be such an easy Bucks win, and they did nothing well. They looked very undisciplined, and maybe they just happened to hit Luka's Lakers with their best punch. But I thought that'd be a turning point, and they just have kind of been since then.
Yeah. So the Warriors, I want to go back to your March basketball point, because the Warriors, since the trade deadline, have the second best defense in the NBA. Despite all the size concerns and things that we're talking about with this team, they've been awesome defensively, and they're starting to resemble the 2022 team that also lacked size, but just really was really smart, on a string on both ends of the court. and just figured out ways to flatten teams. We talked about some of Golden State's strategy in this game. The other part of what they did was they had Jimmy Butler stationed on Brook Lopez to start this game, and that basically just took away the Brook Lopez, Damian Lillard pick and roll, because anytime Lillard wanted to switch it or wanted to get into it, Golden State would switch it, and then you'd have Jimmy Butler on Damian Lillard, which is not a matchup that Milwaukee was looking for. I thought, frankly, that they got away from that too early. I would be interested to see what a team that is, I don't know, better at hunting those matchups could do against Golden State in those kinds of alignments. But I still think that you've got to be really impressed with what the Warriors are doing. But how impressed, I guess, would be my question to you, since you raised a good point. Like, March basketball is just sort of wacky. So what do we think about the Warriors now in terms of their championship viability?
Well, I still think it's pretty high now. Not pretty high. I don't even know what I'm saying. Like, higher than it used to be, certainly. And every time they win a game like this, I'm like, man, there's always a team or two that everybody says no one's going to want to play them in the playoffs. It used to be Jimmy Butler's old team. Now it's Jimmy Butler's new team, right? Like,
very good.
Even though maybe there's some March flukiness, like they just won this game without Steph, and Draymond Green's hitting running floaters to stop a Bucks run, and Pods returns and hits 4 threes, and Buddy Hield finally made some shots. Like, maybe that just happens, and Giannis had an off night, but it's been like a month and a half of them being, like you said, very good on defense. And that's what a Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler front court should do. But if a Steph team can defend, like, they can hang, right? That to me is just like the high level pitch for them being a good team.
Coming up, something happened for just the 3rd time this season. We'll tell you what it is. Plus, the matchup problem we're overlooking in the Western Conference playoffs. All of that and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place to play daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's easy to use, available in over 30 states, and lets you mix and match projections across different sports. This week, I'm selecting Luka Doncic for more than 25 points and Jason Tatum for more than 8 rebounds. Prize Picks makes it simple. You could set your lineups in less than 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. When you win, your money hits your account in as little as 15 minutes, no waiting around. And every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25%, giving even more value to your lineups. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Hungry Root. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've had this ongoing problem. I just don't have the time between work, life, trying to eat healthier. I was constantly feeling stressed out. I'd go to the grocery store, buy things I didn't need, and then end up with no time to actually cook. Sticking to my health goals, that was a struggle too. But everything changed when I discovered Hungry Root. Honestly, it's been a game changer. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. With Hungry Root, it's like having a personal shopper and a nutritionist all in one, just like an NBA player. They take care of my grocery shopping, recommending meals and groceries based on my taste and health goals, from anti-inflammatory to high protein and gluten-free options. And the best part, every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. I'm talking quick, healthy meals that actually taste great, all delivered straight to my door. It's been a huge time saver and has made eating healthy so much easier. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. Thanks for tuning into Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Let's go to our second game of the night, Tony. Let's go to Los Angeles, where the Clippers beat the Cavs 132-119. Really entertaining game. Impressive performance by the Clippers. Ivica Zubac dominating this game.
It's a beast.
Against the big Cavaliers lineup. James Harden had his moments. Bogdanovic made all 8 of his shots and some big ones down the stretch. Kawhi played, I think, his best game of the season. 33 points on 12 of 19 shooting. The Clippers are staying alive in the West standings. They've won 4 games in a row, and they hand the Cavs their first consecutive loss since January
Ugh.
25th. And
My
just the-
stat, I had that coming too.
so that's a great stat. It's just the third time all year that the Cavs have lost 2 straight games. But I want to go back to the Clippers part of this. Just a really impressive win for them. What stood out to you?
Yes. They're good. When this is their first time they've had their healthy rotation in ages, right? Like between Norm Powell being in and out, Ben Simmons being in and out, and Kawhi obviously being in and out. Like they haven't had everybody until today. And of course, Clippers people were quick to be like, well, they didn't have Ty Lue. So technically still not whole in theory, but at their best, like this is the hope of what their team could be. And obviously Kawhi playing this well and Zubac having a 2020 game is insane. But Harden can create. He didn't even score that well. He had a bunch of free throws, but he shot it poorly. And Norm Powell was a good play finisher all season. He didn't have to do much. And Kawhi was awesome. And Zubac was awesome. Like they have good balance. They can guard, and they gave the Cavs enough trouble in this game. Even with only 8 turnovers, the Cavs never felt that threatening offensively. And again, the theory of the Clippers like staying alive after losing PG was, okay, they can up their defensive level because they have Kawhi and they have Zubac, and they added Derek Jones, and now they have Ben Simmons, and Ty Lue can make you and I good defenders. And they're going to have James Harden give him enough on offense, and somehow he's been an all-star level still, and they added Chris Dunn, and it works. It still works. Like the Timberwolves lost last night. I think they're in 6th again, right? Like they just, even when they were missing all these guys, they kept finding enough ways to win to stay in that mix, and they, it's one game with their whole team that, after the trade deadline, but they can win a game like this. Like who's to say they can't reach the top 6?
So Cleveland scores 45 points in the first quarter in this game, and they're looking great in that first quarter. Amazing. And then the Clippers just sort of put the clamps on them for the rest of this game. And I know it's been a weird couple years for the Clippers, and I'm not ready to buy them completely because I have a saying, I'm never going to trust the Clippers. I'm just not going to do it. They've burned me too many times. I'm not going to believe that they can actually win a championship during this build until they're actually hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy. So I say all that just to say this. I kind of believe in this Clippers team a little bit in terms of a team that can make some noise in the Western Conference playoffs. Like I like this group, and there's something about this team that, again, you go down, you allow 45 points to the team like the Cavaliers, who are vying for the best record in the NBA. Look every bit a championship contender, just rattled off 16 straight wins, and they don't let up. Instead, they kind of double down. They put the clamps on them, and they gut out a really impressive home win here. Against a really good team. And there's something about this Clippers team that's just grittier than any of the other Kawhi version Clippers teams that we've seen. When they assembled Kawhi Leonard with Paul George, all we kept hearing was their perimeter defense is going to be off the charts. Nobody's going to be able to score on this team. They had other good defenders on those rosters and all that kind of stuff too. You already mentioned the thing with Ty Lue, awesome defensive coach, but this team is better defensively. Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr. are awesome. Ivica Zubac is better than he's ever been, and over these last 10 games, he's basically averaging better than 21 points and 12 rebounds per game. Like he's been awesome. There was somebody in the Clippers stands holding up a sign that says Zubac for Defensive Player of the Year, and I'm like, he should be on the short list. I don't hate the idea. They just have this defensive backbone and this grittiness that they've never really had during the Kawhi Leonard era.
I totally agree. My dorky, don't say this on a podcast NBA take for a lot of the season was Zubac was better than Harden and should have been their all-star. But I understand the reason that is not something I should ever say out loud. But yeah, that's and Simmons is what Ben Simmons is now. If he just needs to be a tall guy who can defend, that's what they are now, right? They have the size of guys who can ball handle and not suck it up as shooters. It works. And
what a weird Ben Simmons line in this game. 0 for 1 shooting in 13 minutes, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover, plus 17. 0 points.
It's hard because he can't shoot to think this way, but the Ben Simmons do nothing strategy works. It works, right? It's very Clippersy to get that out of him. Chris Dunn and him take 3 shots, and they're really important. I forget what game they just won that I was watching where I was like, dude, Chris Dunn is wrecking this game. He is just dominant. It's crazy what they can do. And I have this weird thing with my trust of the Clippers in the playoffs. On one hand, I trust Kawhi Leonard with my life in the playoffs. I think everybody does. Not from a health perspective. I get that he doesn't play. But when he does play, he's awesome. Yeah. On the other hand, James Harden is on the cover, and no one Trust James Harden. So what of those forces will win out if they are in a series, right? Like I could see it going both ways.
Well, what I like about this version of James Harden is he's more table setter than he is Houston Rockets James Harden.
Totally.
This game, he looked a little bit more like Houston Rockets James Harden, got to the line 11 times, went 2 for 11 from three-point range, took 18 shots in this game, but he's sort of been the innings eater for them this year. I still have questions about what they're going to do to close these games. They close with Zubac, Kawhi, Harden, Bogdanovich, and Amir Coffey in this game. I don't hate that, right? Like they can kind of toggle between, okay, who's got the hot hand between Norman Powell and Bogdanovich? They're sort of our third scorer. We've got Harden, we got Kawhi, Zubac manning it. And then maybe there's games where it's Amir Coffey. Maybe there's other games where it's Derek Jones Jr., Nick Batum can even get in. Like they've got options, and I trust Ty Lue, or in this case, Brian Shaw, to figure it out. But I want to talk about them as like a matchup problem because I think they are. Specifically with Zubac, like you look at what the standings are going to end up being. Like, what if they meet up with the Denver Nuggets in the first round? Zubac against Jokic? I'm not saying Zubac is better than Jokic, but that's about as good of a guy that you want going up against Jokic. And Zubac has given him problems in the past. Against the Lakers, that's a tough matchup. Against the Grizzlies, this is a tough matchup. I think the Clippers are a really unique team that can match up. And I don't know if I'm going to pick them. They still got to, make it out of the play-in tournament if that's where they end up being. But they're a team that can cause some problems in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, the Clippers have, well, not of late, I would say, but in the past they were pretty good against Denver, right? And Zoo is a part of that, and Ty Lue is a part of that, and Jokic figures everything out. But I agree with you that would be tough. Basically, Memphis is starting like a rookie center. The Lakers. Jackson Hayes has played really good next to Luka, but like, there's a lot of matchups where Zoo's going to look really good, and he's one of the best rebounders in the league. OKC would be like, whatever. We don't care about him, but basically any other matchup, he would be a huge change of pace for the game and like the only player providing what he does in that series. And the fact that they have all these wings who can play kind of good on both ends, or at least maybe even elite in some ways on one end of the floor, it's a good team, but they need Harden to be pretty good for it to work. And he was in the first quarter as a scorer. He was the rest of the game as a distributor. In the playoffs, we've seen him be awesome. We've seen him be terrible. Like that might be everything, which is kind of sucky to say.
I'm springing this question on you, but give me your quick answer. Would you bet on the Warriors, the Bucks, or the Clippers to win more playoff rounds?
Oh, rounds. Probably the Warriors, Bucks, Clippers in order, but I don't feel great about that.
Yeah. I think I'm with you, but the Warriors part of this just kind of depends on their matchup. I almost might go Bucks just because the East feels like it might provide them a little bit of an easier
Who's
path.
playing the Rockets? I love the Rockets. I don't know what to think of them in the playoffs. If the Warriors or Clippers are playing the Rockets, maybe.
We're going to move on to the Eastern Conference where we might be overlooking an obvious candidate for Rookie of the Year. We're going to tell you who it is after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC. As of November 18th, 2024, Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thanks for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. Let's go to Boston, where the Celtics, without Jason Tatum and without Jaylen Brown, took care of business against the Brooklyn Nets with a 104-96 win. Here's John Corrales from Locked On Celtics with more.
Wasn't easy for the Boston Celtics, but they got the win over Brooklyn, their second win in a row over Brooklyn. And it was Baylor Shireman who changed the game. He hit 6 3-pointers in this game, 6 of 7. That's a lot for him because he was 5 of 25 for this entire season coming into it. He changed everything in the fourth quarter. It was a back and forth game. The Celtics were struggling. Some bad turnovers. They couldn't hit shots. Kristaps Porzingis was great, but the rest of the Celtics kind of struggled through most of this. And then Shireman, he hit the buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter, and that just got the roll going. And he hit some shots that, got the entire crowd going, got the entire bench going. It was a very infectious, kind of fun game. And a night where no Jaylen Brown, no Jason Tatum, taking advantage of a long stretch here to get those guys some additional rest. It opened the door for Baylor Shireman, the rookie, the 30th overall pick, and he took it.
Tony, am I the only one that every time I hear or watch Baylor Shireman play, I just think of that Lil Wayne song, Fireman? And I just replace the Fireman lyrics with Shireman. Am I the only one that does that?
Great song, great poll. Yes, you'll probably be the only one who does that. You know what's so funny about this? Like, we're going in the correct order of these games, to be clear. I watched Hawks Hornets. I text you, Wes, we got to talk about Rookie of the Year. Risa Shea's playing great. Then I flipped to this game, and I'm like, oh, we're going to have to get Baylor Shireman into the Rookie of the Year discussion. Look at this kid go.
Shireman, let's
they
go.
were losing, and then he went crazy. He was awesome. The great
getting the crowd into it. He was
Yes.
kind of when the Celtics picked him in the draft, it was so obvious, wasn't it? He just feels like a Celtics player, and I think you know what I mean by that. But
He'll go through 2 years where it's like, oh man, this guy might suck, and then in his third year, he'll have that Peyton Pritchard, like, oh, maybe he's good. And then the fourth year, he'll be so freaking great, and it'll be annoying.
my biggest takeaway, other than the Shireman, was Kristaps Porzingis in his second game back from his mysterious viral illness. He looked really good. 25 points, 13 rebounds, 3 blocks, moving well, smiling. And 2 games against Brooklyn, right? He had one over the weekend, and then this one kind of felt like a preseason for him to ramp up to where he needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. He's looked really good in both games, right? They won in Brooklyn with him playing quite well down the stretch and kind of carrying them. And he doesn't like not missing a beat, but just, he looks really good pretty quickly after returning. And they're still really good, obviously, but like him being able to do the things he does is kind of what makes the Celtics to me. And it's been very clear, like, oh, look, he's plus 12 in a game. They're like scraping out against the Nets. Like when he's out there, they're just still awesome, regardless of who the other players are. And poor Nick Claxton couldn't handle it like at all. 2 straight games. So I agree with you. He's been huge.
We're going to wrap up today's slate in Charlotte, where the Hawks cruised to a win over the Hornets. Trae Young had 31 points. Dyson Daniels had 22 points. And Zachary Rizashea had 21, with most of that work coming in the third quarter to help the Hawks pull away. Tony, this was the guy that you texted me about. We have to have a Rookie of the Year conversation.
Let's go. 16 of his 21 in the third quarter. So it's very easy to be like, oh, yeah, we got to talk about him. 21 in total, 4 threes in that frame. Look, I've been thinking this
3 straight
anyway.
threes. Sorry, but 3 straight threes from the same exact spot on the left wing. Charlotte's defenders just kept getting screened away. Terrible defense to not recognize that they're just going to keep going to that. They ran the same basic thing 3 times in a row. Rizashea hit all 3 shots from the same exact spot.
Yeah, the Hornets, like, I get what they're doing. It's just like sad at times with what are you doing? I was saying this anyway before this game, and first of all, Hawks announcer crew, they like the slight ending of the word Zachary, with the French, like the Zachary, like they have it down. It's so good. I've always like, why is Castle this like dominant favorite? He's not even my favorite. Jalen Wells is, but like, why is everything of Castle so much higher than Rizashea? Their stats are like 1.5 points a game apart. Rizashea is a better rebounder. He's more efficient. Like, are we putting this much stock into passing on a bad Spurs team? And the Hawks aren't that great either. But I'm like, why is Rizashea not right in that mix? Right? Again, I think Wells is better than both of them. But regardless, he should be getting actual buzz for this award. Like, he can shoot. He's efficient now. He's a better defender. than Castle right now. I think Castle will be a good defender. Like, he's just kind of good. And when he goes through heaters like this, it's very easy to say that, but wings who can do that stuff are really valuable. I'm not sure I'm like so sold that he's better than Castle, but I can't believe how wide this gap is. I went to like check the betting markets to see even our friends at FanDuel. I was like, Castle's that much ahead. It's crazy. Reese Shea's pretty good.
Reese Shea might be the most overlooked number 1 pick ever. Like literally ever.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think you pointed this out to me maybe in the beginning of the season that the Hawks and the Wizards played a game and nobody cared.
Yeah. One versus two.
Yeah, 1 versus 2, and nobody cared. And Alex Sarr has been coming on a little bit stronger in the second half of the season too, and his rookie of the odds years have gone up, and it just feels like Reese Shea's have just not moved. Everybody's just forgotten about this guy. He's playing on a fun Hawks team. It's not like the Hawks are not. They're going to be in the play-in tournament. They're sort of fun. People are just ignoring them.
5 rookies averaging 10 points a game. This is a bad class. One's Jared McCain, who is not going to win the award. One is Sarr, who's shooting under 40%. He's not going to win the award. The other 3, it's Wells, Reese Shea, and Castle. Like, I get that they are the top 3 and should be, but one actually impacts winning. The other 2 seem like they're very similar levels of quality, with one being much better of late. I'm very surprised by how this is trending. And get Zachary on these lists, man. He's good.
You are right, though, that this is a very disappointing rookie class. Can we just roll over this Rookie of the Year trophy to next year? Because they're going to have a loaded rookie class. Like Cooper Flag, you get 1, and then all the other rookies could battle out for the second one.
Last year? They should have pulled a Donovan Mitchell and sat out. Or no, I'm sorry, a Ben Simmons to sit out. They would have been the easiest win ever. Yeah, Wemby's going to smoke you, so sit out that year. Brandon Miller could have had
sat
the
out
easiest
1
rookie
year.
of his life, right?
Should Chet have just sat out 2 straight years and done it that way?
Brandon Miller had the trophy in his hand. It was free, man. Come on.
It's right there. That's going to do it for wrap up Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.